Welcome, everyone. So happy that you're here. I have a very special guest for you that I'm going to introduce. Her name is Swati Kameswar. And the wonderful thing about Swati is that she really took the soul guide trainings and expanded it into helping people with another layer of astrology. And we're going to have that discussion here because she's got some extra special skills and gifts that she can help you with. So, welcome, Swati. I'm so glad you're here with me today.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be
Mm,
here.
yeah, it's just such a treat. So, I do want to talk about this difference before we go into your story because I think it's going to come up about what a core soul guide does and then what you might do that's expanded beyond that. And then I'll let you tell your story about how creation team getting to know it, how it worked through you, how it developed through you, and the elements. But the difference is a soul guide who works with the core of your archetypal energies, those eight core energies. Those are the astrological archetypes. A soul guide helps you to embody those, to stop power struggling internally, and to really recognize what your soul gifts are. Swati has gone on to become a certified astrologer, and she takes that and then helps you to understand what some of the initiation cycles that you might be going through in relation to the outer planets. And she'll talk about that as she shares her story, but I wanted you to have a little framework before she started sharing to understand the difference. It is kind of like understanding the foundation and then the next level of training and information that you can have. So, Swati, please tell us a little bit about like where you started. What was the first part of your journey? Like, how'd you get to know your creation team? Tell us about that pathway for you.
Gladly, Lisa, because this work has had such a deep impact on my life. So I came across your work about 10 years ago. And at that time, I was kind of deeply in my then profession as a computer engineer. And I was managing a pretty large engineering team. And what happened was that despite all the success that I had felt, and even though it was a career that I had enjoyed, I was feeling deeply disillusioned. I
Mm,
felt like I've kind of reached the end of the line over here, and I really didn't know what was next. And I came across your work at that time. I heard you speaking on a podcast talking about the elements, and they really just opened my heart up because
mm,
I realized that I could, having always loved nature, as a child, I used to always be playing in the mud and, plucking flowers and just I felt so much at peace in nature. But when I came across your work, I realized that I could work with nature consciously.
mm,
And so
mm,
I started to engage with the teachings of the elements, and they just opened up my life.
mm.
Um, and if I may share a very brief story about my experience with Life Creation 101,
Yeah,
which
sure.
was your program, which had 101 modules that went through all the teachings of the
Yeah,
elements.
yeah.
And my engineering mind comes and says, okay, 101 modules. Uh, I'll do one a day because they were short videos, right?
Right,
I'll
right,
do one
right.
a day, and maybe about 3.5 months I'll be done. It took me a year and a half to get through it. And when I started to work with it, we started with Earth, and I felt it was very uncomfortable to work with
Mm,
Earth.
mm,
And
mm.
somehow I sort of, trudged my way through that section on Earth. And my guidance kept telling me, just keep moving ahead. There's no need for perfectionism here. And then I came to water. And that's when things just opened up. Because
Yeah,
from the moment I came to water, and the teachings of water are about running a clean, clear emotional current. And I was thinking, that's wonderful. I really want that. But how do I do that? And then water started to show me how I could do that, bringing all these tools to my awareness. I spent 6 months with water, working with water. And
yeah,
it opened, first of all, it gave me a way to release grief that I didn't
yeah,
even know I had. which
Yeah.
later on I realized that, okay, some of it was my own, a lot of it was my lineage, particularly my grandfather, so Waters' teachings went so deep into unblocking life force. But through that process, something beautiful emerged. My creativity started to flow.
Mhm.
That earth, which had felt so rigid when I started to work with it, that started to become softer and more flexible. And that opened up my thinking, it opened up my world. It started to give me a taste of what I was really here to do. Because one of the questions that was coming up to me at that time was that, what did my soul incarnate in this body, in this life to do? And what
Mm,
if I reach the end of my life and I
mm,
don't do what I came here to do?
mm.
So the elements started to show me all of these things, and that's was also my first introduction to astrology. And I realized that I have Venus in Pisces. So, that water being blocked up and then the water flowing, what a difference it made.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that then led me to engaging deeper and deeper with this work. I just realized what an enormous gift it was to work with the elements because they completely transform your consciousness.
Yeah, yeah, they really, really do. And before you
Yeah.
go on with your story, I want to just say something about Life Creation 101. It is now divided into three core teachings that the nature aligned creation coaches and facilitators facilitate. And there are some other ways that you can learn that content. So it's not in that form anymore because most people don't have the dedication to do 101 videos. And you
Yes.
really did, Swati. I think that is remarkable that you went through it on your own because, like, for 10, 12, 15 years, I can't even remember how long now, I taught all that content in person. And I wanted people anywhere to be able to access the benefit, which you really did. I mean, you embodied it. You had that beautiful connection with the elements. And what a difference it's made. So, as you started to learn your creation team, like what happened from there for you?
So one interesting thing that was going on in my life at the time was that I was going through a Pluto initiation, which I
Uh
didn't
huh.
know. But as your work was my first introduction to astrology, and through that I came to know. I started to learn about the archetypes and then the planets, and I realized that, oh, I'm feeling all of this intensity and all this deep desire for transformation because I'm going through that Pluto initiation, and it was activating my Mercury and my Mars. So it was,
Mm.
completely changing my uh, Mercury, which is a core aspect of the creation team, right? It was completely opening up
Communication. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
communication, expression, perception. My
Yeah.
perception was completely changing because I was
Right.
suddenly opening up to a brand new world. My expression was changing because my creativity was coming through. And what I wanted to do next, that, I was starting to get a sense of that because I
Mm,
knew
mm,
that
mm,
engineering, I was coming to the end of that.
mm.
I didn't feel like I could do it for another, 5, 10 years, forget the rest of my life.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
what's next, right? And then Pluto came onto my Mars, and that's another core, such a core part of the creation team, that
The inner masculine. I
the
just want to
inner
be sure.
masculine,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yes, the inner masculine. And frankly, there was a lot of healing to do both in the Mercury as well as the um, Mars aspects. But this then started to give me a sense of, oh, these are, what midlife crisis is. Like we
Mm,
experience
mm,
midlife
mm.
crisis so commonly. It's a common experience for so many. And I started to understand how these outer planetary transits that happen during midlife,
Right.
and then depending on your own natal chart, you will have some
Right.
extra transits like I was having. But all of these were starting to create a need for transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Mm-hmm.
elements were helping to transform, to give us practical, grounded ways to transform. And then
Mm-hmm.
you get to know yourself so deeply through the creation team, which then gives you a sense of your unique gifts.
Right. Right. Right.
So
So
one thing that happened, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to, and you keep going, and then I'll come back to this question.
Well, one thing that happened was because my creativity started to flow, it started to open up perception and ideas about what I could do in the future or what were my unique gifts. So, being an engineer, there is such a deep focus on the left brain, the rational mind and the logical mind.
Right, right.
And then having Venus in Pisces, needing that connection to the divine, needing that connection to service and creativity, which I was not feeling in
That's
my,
her inner feminine, by the way.
yes, the Venus is the inner feminine. So that part, and as we know from the creation team teachings, is that Venus is really needs to be the focalizer of the team. And at the
For
time,
women,
she
yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
no wonder I was feeling that disconnect in my
Yes,
career.
yes.
But the moment she started to have a voice and express herself through my creativity and all the things that I was exploring, um, that balance started to come through, that left brain, right brain, heart balance, that feeling of
Mm-hmm.
wholeness that
Mm-hmm.
that we feel when things are aligned, that started to come through.
Nice.
And it it really pointed, it gave me the energetic strength to make changes in my life, like really,
Uh,
really big changes.
yeah. And that's huge. It's really huge when that happens for people. So I want to just go back a little bit and just talk a tiny bit more about the outer planets. So once you know your core creation team and you feel like you've embodied that and you've started to work with the alchemy of it, you can look at the influence that certain other planets that we call them the outer planets, though that's Pluto, it's Saturn, it's Uranus, it's Neptune. You can look at those influences on your natal chart, which is the next step after the core creation team. So you can see how is Saturn. I have like a lot of Saturn influence on my creation team. So understanding that really helped me because Saturn can sometimes be the critical voice or, say you're not doing things in time or you're not doing things. I mean, like it can just have some significant things. So once I understood that, it really helped me to know kind of where that sort of energy comes from in my life. So that aside, those when you understand your core team, you can start looking at that, and then you see the subtlety of how that impacts your team. But then there's another place to look, and that is what Swati is talking about as an astrologer. During certain times in our life, whether you actually have, and Swati's been talking about Pluto, whether you actually have Pluto that influences your creation team directly, you can be going through a Pluto initiation. I remember a couple of my Pluto initiations. The very first one I had, and this is so critical, the very first one I had was a deep, dark night of the soul. I left my ballet school to move and go on to what was next. That was one of the hardest things I ever did in my life. I got divorced at the same time. Like one of the things about a Pluto cycle is sometimes everything falls away. And as I went deeper into the work about that, my guidance was, and I was actually working with Earth when I heard this, was that why that happened was I needed the compost, rich compost for what was going to grow next. So a Pluto cycle can sometimes be called the dark night of the soul, which is what I went through. But here's where it gets important, and here is where Swati can really help you. If you are going through that, it's kind of hard to find somebody who knows how to hold space for that, to not make you wrong about having that experience or not make you want to come out too soon. No, I need to get back to my life as it was. Somebody needs to be able to say, you're right where you need to be and get the treasures that are there, as challenging as it is. So just talk a tiny bit more, Swati, about how the soul evolves through the transformational process of Pluto.
Oh my goodness, Lisa. I am so grateful that during my journey, I came to know exactly about these things that Pluto brings up, just that you just mentioned, that, somebody like having that awareness that this is exactly where you're meant to be, because you're not, it's like the caterpillar turning into a butterfly.
Yeah.
You don't keep poking the caterpillar and say, okay, when when are you done? I mean, that would just completely mess up the transformational process. It would, and the
Right.
caterpillar would die likely, right? And that's kind of metaphorically what happens with us. Like we are going through such deep change. There is such a falling, so much falling away of the old. And just in my case, when I started to work with water, all that grief started to come up. All that had to be composted. The grief
Yeah.
had to be felt.
Yep.
There was honestly, it felt when I was going through that time, it felt like I was expressing lifetimes of grief.
I'm sure you were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because to be honest, I have been very blessed in this life.
Mm.
Wonderful parents, wonderful husband, wonderful children. I mean, I'm just deeply grateful for everything that I've had. And I couldn't figure out like why am I feeling so much grief?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
having that context that I'm going through a Pluto transit, it is going to bring up unresolved stuff from lifetimes.
Yeah.
That that just was such a great help. And this is often a point when people come to me when they're coming to work with
Yeah.
me. This
Yeah.
is the point
Yeah.
where they are at
Yeah.
in their journey.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I let them know, give them the bigger context of what is Pluto trying to accomplish here,
Right.
and
Right.
that it
Right.
is the time to be in the darkness and to let things fall away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think there's another really important part here, and I've held space for lots of people once I understood my own dark night of the soul for that phase. But there is a really an important, really, really, really important part of the cycle, and that is, and remember, and let's use the caterpillar and the butterfly again. There is a point at which the caterpillar attaches to a twig, forms the cocoon. Everything that it once knew melts down for it to be reformed into the butterfly. And it is at this exact point that I've helped tons of people through, and I'm sure you have too, trusting the like part where you feel completely stuck. Because let's face it, you're attached to a twig. Everything is melting down. I don't have any touch points for how I once was. This is part of that alchemical process. And it takes a while sometimes, And how many of us are that good at, like, I don't know where my life is going? I've had all these things fall away. What's next? Like, trusting
Yes,
that phase of the cycle is such a big deal.
it is. It is. It's the whole crux of it, to
Yeah.
develop that trust in yourself
Yeah.
in the process when
Yeah.
nothing is clear and when
Yeah.
everything seems to be breaking down, to have
Yeah.
that trust that I am going to be okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, honestly, it is such a gift
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
walk with somebody during that time.
Well, it is. And it is such a gift to you to walk through it as a facilitator, but to them, I mean, I cannot tell you how much it would have helped me during my first dark night of the soul if somebody had said, this is what you need to be doing. There's nothing wrong with you that you feel this way. Instead of, when are you going to feel better? What's
Yes,
what's what's taking so long? Why do you feel so bad still?
yes,
Why do you feel
yeah,
so lost? That's how you're supposed to be feeling. Okay, so
yeah.
enough about the dark night of the soul. I know that, but it is really, really, really important. It is. But
Yeah,
I know the other part that there's a particular part of the creation team which is called the midheaven, but it's all what it's about is your right livelihood, the contribution. Like, if even if you're retired, you want this energy in your life because it's the way you contribute to the world, whether that's just in your very presence or if it's in something that you do in the outer world. And I know that has been meaningful for you, Swati. Do you want to talk about your understanding of that and your journey of that with that?
yes. Because it was. it was a very key understanding that came into my life at the time when I was trying to figure out what is next in my career. And this understanding that the midheaven is not necessarily your job. Having
Right.
that distinction between the job and the midheaven, or even job and life purpose. And
Yeah.
midheaven is one way in which the life purpose shows up. So that understanding, first of all, was a relief. Because,
Hmm.
so okay, my job is not my life purpose. No wonder I feel the way I do.
Right.
But the next thing was, as my creativity started to flow, and I have midheaven in the sign of Scorpio, which is this sign of like intensity, feeling aliveness, feeling that passion, which was just so opposite of my experience at the time. But so when that creativity started to flow, that passion started to come back.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
realized that astrology was one of my passions. It was one of my skills, and I started to bring that in along with the elements, the creation team, the timings, all of that. And really, it was about, Scorpio is so much about you're feeling alive. That means that life force is flowing
Yeah.
freely, right? It's
Yeah.
not blocked anywhere due to all emotions or other factors. And that is then what I was starting to help people to do. So then I started to see my midheaven align with my life purpose, with the
Mm.
intended life purpose. And then creativity became a part of my life. And actually, this painting here
I
behind me
love that. I love it.
is my creation team. All the different symbols in the painting,
Okay.
they're all different aspects of my creation team. So through the painting process, bringing that zest and passion and enthusiasm back
Mm.
into a way of being, and
Mm.
letting that passion then light the way.
Mm.
That's what that's what the midheaven has done for me.
Mm.
Really
Beautiful.
lit up the way.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. So one of the things about Scorpio, and I know here I am with another story, but one of the things about Scorpio that I've really discovered over the years is that when people really find a way to have their life force flow, and that's different for each person, but one of the profound ways to let life force flow is by the making of shamanic art. And that's what you're doing. I mean, there
Yes.
you are with all that symbology and, all those beautiful images. And what's different about shamanic art is that you don't necessarily start off with, like, I'm gonna paint this. You allow the painting really to kind of come through you and you tap into your life force as you're painting or as you're doing some other form of creation that's connected with that energy. It's a really, really powerful, powerful, powerful tool. And I know you bring creativity a lot into when you're teaching and facilitating, Swati.
Yes, I do. And actually, this process that I've used is very much like a shamanic process. It's called the intentional creativity process, where we go deep into it's a combination of intention, inquiry, and intuition. And through
Mm,
that, we let the painting evolve and emerge, and we ask questions. And then as we are painting, the answers come through. We're in this space of deep listening. But your whole life, it's not just during the painting process, but you're receiving answers during as you're living
mm,
your life. So the whole life
mm,
gets immersed
mm,
in this process of intuition and receiving the answers. So I do bring processes like this in my work with people, even in short private sessions, but also in my larger programs, mentoring
mhm,
programs. So this is a very core part of the work
mm,
because it
mm.
helps us to tap deeply into that life force within, that water within, get answers from the deep undercurrent of water to not just transmute heavy stuff, but also to receive guidance on what is next.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. So, what would you say, Swati, to someone who might be actually considering, do I want to become a soul guide? Like, how would you tell them to tap into, like, feel into, is that something for them, or to start their personal journey along the way?
Oh my goodness. If I had to just say one thing, I would say do it.
I think
But
that's what everybody says.
yeah, yeah. But I think this work it has such depth and wisdom in terms of firstly knowing your own self.
Mm, mm,
Just coming to rest within and letting all these different voices speak to you and in a harmonious way. It has so much, it's like it takes you so deep into your own personal growth.
Mm,
And then when you are feeling comfortable with that, to be able to help others to do that is honestly, it has been one of the most rewarding things ever.
wow,
To
wow,
help
wow,
people on that path of
wow.
knowing themselves, knowing their own uniqueness and their skills and giving them a way to express that. I mean, what a gift.
Mm, mm, mm. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I love the term you just used, coming to rest within. How beautiful, 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 beautiful. So, Swati, what do you want to say as we close? Like, what's moving in you to just share as we end this?
I think what the one thing I have learned after having worked with, engaged in this body of work for the last 10 years is that it is so alive.
Mhm.
Like I am still receiving more and more. The more I engage with the elements, the archetypes, my own team, the more I'm receiving from them. Like it just goes to a deeper level of richness.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this painting is just one example. You know, I have worked with my creation team for a while, but when I did the painting and this, the symbol of the elephant, who is my Jupiter in Taurus, emerged, and I tuned into what message does Jupiter in Taurus have for me. There were things I was receiving that I had not received before. So I
yeah,
just want to
yeah,
say in conclusion that there's so much richness to this work and knowing yourself through it that it's a gift that keeps on giving.
yeah, yeah. It's really true. I just want to say one other thing about that aliveness. I mean, the archetypes and the elements are living forces, and they will inform you as much as you inform them. So the more you have a conscious relationship with them, the richer life becomes sincerely. So, Swati, I just want to honor you. I want to just appreciate knowing you and all the ways that you show up in every part and facet of this work. And just thank you, thank you, thank you for being here today and taking the time to share your insights and your guidance.
Thank you, Lisa. It's been a joy to
Yeah,
be here.
yeah, thanks. All right, everybody, till we meet again.